The opinions expressed in this show belong to the person expressing them. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of Rancher or any other entity.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Native. My name is Adrian Goins, and I am jazzed up to be here with you today. The purpose of this show is to share with you news and interesting content related to Kubernetes and Cloud Native, and to build a community of people who are interested in using technology to live a better life. If you're watching live, consider following or subscribing to the channel. And if you're watching a replay, well, please also give the video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm shares it with other people. You can join the free community site and the Discord server. Links to all of that are in the video description or scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Live chat happens in Discord with a bot that relays between YouTube and Twitch, so come hang out with us either during the show or after. As you'll see in a minute, the chat is where the real action happens. In fact, let's see who we've got in the chat today. Dun, dun, dun. Scroll backwards. Oh my gosh, it's already a crazy GIF war. Good morning, Wifebot, Captain Justin, M. Layton, Ian, Stat Clash, James P. Frank, hello, wow, Clint, good morning. Nuno, Vito, scrolling back to the early part of the chat. Hey, good morning, Duck. Duck is a secret agent. Cool, all right, let's, oh, I didn't stop my teleprompter. It's like going crazy over there. So I skipped the whole news stuff. So, real quick, if you watched the A/B test yesterday, you saw that it was kind of cluttered because the live chat channel is actually like super crazy. So there's now another channel called the A/B test. You can't write in it, but you can vote in it. So that's where the links are going to get posted. And I'm sorry you have to switch back and forth between the two channels. But what it also means is after the show, anybody can go to that channel and see all of the links from today's show. So that's cool, right? Yay! In other news, the internet is still good. We were able to still get 8 megabits a second in our test run this morning, which is better than the 2 we were getting 2 weeks ago. So that's also good. And KubeCon officially starts today, like with the actual stuff. I mean, really, it started yesterday, but like today's the expo day. So I'll be in the Rancher booth if you want to come by and make the sign of the Cowbellion. If you don't know what that is, well, there's a video for it. And in fact, I'll just put a link to that in the chat. Dun, 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 dun. I made a Star Wars video for Rancher. So yeah, so come by and say hello. And I guess with that, we should move on. Hey, look, it's my video. Yeah, I made like a little hologram, and it was fun. It took way too much time. So let's get back to, oh, you know what? Let's minimize that window, because that's no bueno. And let's get Trufflebot to start telling us stuff. What do we got next? Next. Doctor. When you say it out loud, it sounds noble. It sounds like it's, oh, actually, it's not unintentional. Look at that. It's a whale with a stethoscope. That's very sweet. And they were featured on Product Hunt. It's not often that you see a GitHub project on Product Hunt, so that's pretty cool too. Doctor is designed to do log collection of just straight up Docker containers. So if you're not using an orchestration system, if you don't have Kubernetes and Fluentd and a bunch of other stuff, or if you're just running containers on your local environment, then this will do log collection for you. It runs a bunch of stuff. What has it got? It runs, oh, chat's not on the screen. Yeah, hold on. I don't have a button for that. Hang on a second. Chat on the screen. There you go. That was somebody who messaged me on Discord. Thank you. Okay, so yes, so this just runs a local Mongo instance. It's got a bunch of other stuff going on there: React, Electron, Tailwind CSS, you know, all the UI components. And well, so you know, it runs as a Yarn app. I was saying yesterday, like I really prefer things that run as a Docker container or that run as just a standalone binary. But that's cool. If you're doing development, you probably already have all of these tools on your system anyway. And these super low resolution images show that it actually connects to the Docker daemon and collects logs from standard out from all your containers. Yay! This is the part where now we go to vote. Ah, yay, I see people are voting. That's great. So remember, you can vote. Like the community vote is actually going to be used in the future to retrain the machine learning model on what things the community likes. Next up. Lambda layers. For some reason, my brain just cannot process the word lambda. When I see it, I swear that it's spelled wrong. And I look at it and it's not, but it's like my brain, I think, turns the B into an O, so it's like and yeah. So it's not spelled wrong. This is an article from the future. Back in November of 2014, functions brought in a revolution to the world of cloud computing. If you're doing anything with serverless, you're prone to code reuse, but in a bad way. You're prone to having common things that would normally be abstracted out into a library stuffed into all of your serverless functions, because in many cases it's more work to actually pull those out and put them somewhere that you can just import, and then you're in package management hell and so on and so forth. Well, Lambda layers are designed to solve that problem by letting you create what's essentially a zip file or a tarball or what is it? Some sort of archive, and attach that as a layer to your other functions. And it acts as basically any functions that are in there are then available for your primary function to use. It seems a little, I mean, it definitely solves a problem, and that's great, but it seems a little hacky. It seems like if you need to be doing that, maybe you don't need to be using serverless, or maybe those of us, I go back and forth on whether or not serverless is valuable, and this would be an argument for why serverless isn't. But it's a great solution, and if you find yourself where you're like, oh, I gotta put this function in everything, and now I made a change to it, and I gotta update it in multiple places, and you're using Lambda, then here you go. I just saw Nuno write the word distract. I'm gonna go hang out in the A/B test channel. I don't know if this exists for any other serverless platform. It seems like a great solution. If you know, then please tell us in the chat. So let's vote on this and pull up the next one. Jeff Geerling. If you have not encountered Jeff Geerling, then you're not using Ansible for sure, but you're probably also not doing stuff with Kubernetes because this is not zoomed in enough. Because he's all over the place. And he has, earlier this year, he did an Ansible 101 live stream covering all the basics of Ansible, and that's actually how I encountered him first. And he's now starting a Kubernetes 101 live stream sponsored by Amazy. We do have people who watch the show who are new in their Kubernetes journey, and it's important that we all remember not only that they exist, but that we all used to be there. So anytime that I find something that's, there's a lot of content coming out right now that's like, Kubernetes from nothing, but it's being taught by people who learned how to use Kubernetes 2 days ago. And that's not necessarily the best content. So when I find stuff that's free and from a reputable source, I want to share that with you. So you can go to his YouTube channel, and he's very excited because he was able to buy an Elgato Stream Deck, which I also have, and they're fantastic. Moving on. How do y'all like Trufflebot in the voting? Cool? Yeah? Not cool? Too bad. I tried. Steve G says Jeff is also great for Raspberry Pis. That's cool. I haven't encountered him in that because I don't do anything with Raspberry Pis. I have 2 of them sitting around here somewhere, but I keep blowing up SD cards. I totally forgot what I was going to say. So moving on. we have, what is this? Ah, it's actually this. People and companies are starting to stick flags in the ground around things, and I'm seeing. In fact, I have additional notes on this one from when I was reading through it. There are some interesting battlegrounds being created. One company I saw recently is actually taking a stand against open source, which I thought was both interesting and not wise, but they only have a proprietary product. So what I'm seeing is that companies are taking whatever they're actually able to sell and starting to say that this is the thing that everybody should be using. So we're seeing companies that only have proprietary products and no open source solution saying open source is bad because you have to be an expert and you have to know what you're doing and you're going to pay for it in some other way. So why not just pay us instead? I'm also seeing companies who don't have a Kubernetes play come out and say things like, well, Kubernetes isn't the right choice. I don't know. Oh, this is New Relic. Interesting. I think New Relic has a hard time monitoring Kubernetes because they compete with other tools that monitor Kubernetes better than New Relic does. This article makes an argument that I also am seeing. And let me jump over to the live chat here too. Oh, hang on. I see people complaining about stuff. Let me check stream quality. No, stream quality is good over here. We're rock solid at 4.5 megabits per second. So the argument that you shouldn't deploy a tool because it requires, if you're a business, you shouldn't use a tool because it requires that you employ experts to actually manage that tool, I think is flawed. The analogy that I came up with this morning is no one says that we don't need hospitals because you have to find expert doctors, and nobody says that don't become a doctor because why bother becoming an expert in something. This article says that you shouldn't have to employ experts, but why wouldn't you want to employ experts? And more importantly, if you're learning a skill, why wouldn't you want to be an expert? Like, why wouldn't you want to learn how to do everything that you could possibly do to be the best at that thing that you can possibly be? When I was younger, my dad gave me a fantastic business model, which is find something that you like to do it really well, do it better than everyone else, and then do it for less. The do it for less doesn't actually hold true because people value things according to its cost. So if you're really good at something, charge a ton of money for it. And you will find that you lose people on the low end who don't want to pay that, but you do pick people up on the high end. And it's far better to have 5 customers paying you $5,000 than it is to have 5,000 customers paying you $5, just from a management perspective. So fire your lowest end of customer and spend a lot of time and energy on the highest end. I think that these sorts of arguments, I just double clicked that for no reason, but I think that these sorts of arguments come from the fact that we're all being expected to start to learn something today and be an expert at it tomorrow. And that's supported by the fact that people are learning something today and then teaching it to other people tomorrow. Be careful about the quality of the information that you're using to learn from, and be an expert. Find something that you like to do it really well, do it better than everyone else, and be proud of that. Moving on. The next item. Oh. This is actually from May. And it's a video. It's a 30-second video. We're not going to watch it. But it says, what is Red Hat OpenShift? Red Hat is having a bit of an identity crisis these days. Granted that this is from May. What exactly is OpenShift? Red Hat's Scott McCarty explains how the Red Hat OpenShift container platform is Kubernetes, but that it's also more than Kubernetes. Which is it? Is it Kubernetes or is it not Kubernetes? Red Hat released not a white paper, but a tool that does validation of Kubernetes workloads if you are moving from Kubernetes to OpenShift to tell you what things are running in Kubernetes that don't work in OpenShift. That doesn't sound like it's Kubernetes to me. OpenShift does a lot of things, and Red Hat has done tremendous things for the Kubernetes community in general. I'm not going to bag on OpenShift here. However, OpenShift, by their own admission, is more than different from not Kubernetes. What that means is if you are using those components that are more than or not Kubernetes, you're locked into the OpenShift platform. And maybe that's totally fine. I'm not here to argue the value or the not value of vendor lock-in. I was having a conversation with somebody else about that, about open source and no vendor lock-in, and how every single company that has a product to some degree is going to lock you into that product because they want you to stay their customer. There are varying degrees of lock-in, and we just need to go into them with open eyes and an open heart and an open understanding. If I'm going to use a proprietary solution and build a dependency on it, then I need to accept and be prepared for the inevitability of pain if and when I decide to move off of that solution. And maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe it happens in 5 years. Maybe it happens, long after I'm gone. But it still needs to be considered when evaluating different solutions. So I let this on the show simply because, because Red Hat's not sure what they are. Like they're like, we're Kubernetes, not Kubernetes, maybe Kubernetes, more than Kubernetes. If you're running Kubernetes, we're not Kubernetes, but we're Kubernetes. Yay. Next item is another introductory Kubernetes thing. This is part 6 of the Kubernetes for Beginners. It's actually quite short. I had a lot of fun with this image because you can't really tell, but if you follow the link later, you'll see that the glasses that are resting on the phone are totally run through some terrible filter, and that it's totally impossible to have the foreground in this kind of fuzziness, the midground perfect, and the background in what is actually the proper depth of field. And also, I guarantee you, nobody's going to be drinking coffee on their bed with no place to set their cup. But besides all of that, this gives you a really basic introduction into the comparison between a Docker command and a Kubernetes command. And I think that's what I think it's a her, right? Well, that's what Nethmini's whole series is about. It's about taking people who understand Docker stuff and freezing the browser, taking people who understand Docker stuff and showing them the parallel of like this in Docker equals this in Kubernetes. And in this one, she says that if you are overriding the command in the pod manifest, well, command corresponds to entry point and args corresponds to the CMD, the command in a Docker file. So I think that's very helpful to take people from what they understand and help move them to what they are trying to learn, because associations, as you've heard me say 1,000 times before, associations are how we retain knowledge. When you're learning something, connect it to other things that matter to you, and your brain will be like, oh, this is important. And every night when you sleep, when it's converting memories from short-term to long-term, it will use associations to decide what it needs to store. If you learn something and you don't associate it, you'll wake up the next day and you'll be like, I have no idea what I learned yesterday. Oh, wow. You guys all really liked that one. Cool. Next up, don't even bother clicking this link because it's not what it looks like it is. It's actually from this tweet here, which I had open because when I was going through the stuff last night, I was like, what? Who's going to just post the AWS credentials.go file from Kubernetes? But actually, Alexis, is migrating tons of images used by Kubernetes clusters to AWS ECR. I wonder if that has anything to do with the Docker Hub rate limits. He's still baffled by all the ECR creds helpers horrible hacks that can be found online and wants us to know that this is actually baked into Kubernetes. So please stop making ECR credential hacks and instead go read the source code. Okay. I'm not going to tell you how to use this, but this apparently exists in Kubernetes. You can create ECR credentials. I'm guessing this is probably documented somewhere in the Kubernetes documentation. If you are also moving stuff from Docker Hub to ECR, and you're using one of those terrible online hacks, possibly written by people who figured out how to do it yesterday, maybe this is useful. Next. I need a vote and next button that I can just press on my Stream Deck, but I'm out of buttons. I've filled it with other stuff for the show. Next up. What is this? This is by one of the people from Stark and Wayne, a company that I am totally surprised has not been sued into oblivion by Marvel. Marvel? I don't actually know, off the top of my head, who's a Marvel character and who's a DC character. I know those of you who do probably are unsubscribing from the show right now, and I'm really sorry. Anyway, whatever. This explains that there's a wonderful command in kubectl called kubectl explain. And you can pass it a thing that you want to know about, and it will give you everything that you need to know about how to use that thing. This is extremely useful if you're going through the CKA, the CKAD, or any other CK blah, blah, blah certification, because if you don't remember, in many cases, this is faster than going and looking up in the documentation. It's like a Superman page that's baked directly into kubectl. So Mr. James Hunt would like us to know about it, and this actually comes off of an earlier YouTube video that they had. There you go. kubectl explain. Next. Okay. I'm not filtering much of what Trufflebot wants to talk about. I'm letting the machine learning model do what it's supposed to do, and then reverse sorting the top 15 items, and then shuffling those and having it just throw stuff at us from whatever comes out of that. So Black Duck Software, also in the universe of synergies, I thought this was interesting because, oh man, who was it? Fairwinds. Fairwinds was going to come up yesterday, but it didn't turn up in the list. And one of the founders of Fairwinds is the former CTO of Black Duck. Random. So then Black Duck Software comes up with something today. They released version 2 of their Synopsys CTL, which is a tool to deploy Synopsys applications in Kubernetes and OpenShift. Let's very quickly go look and see what's new in this release. They added support for Redis. Well, what's new in the version 2 release in general? Because 2.0.1 is just going to be a point release. 2.0... Huh, that's interesting. So Polaris is a Fairwinds product. Why would Black Duck remove all functionality related to Polaris and Polaris reporting? That's interesting. Who knows? We can make up stories about it. So, yeah, it looks like there's not anything super huge that they want to talk about for their version 2, but certainly version 2.01 came out, and they now have support for Redis and external Postgres in the alert application. Yeah, I'm with you, community. I see y'all are rating that. And let's wrap that up, giving us an average rating for today's show of 3 coffees. No, sorry. 3 coffees. No, 3. There we go. I watched Inglourious Bastards. Like, I would totally be dead if I was in a bar and whatever. And you know what that means. That's right. It is time for ridiculosity. Straight up ridiculousness. This is not new, but it showed up yesterday and I hadn't seen it before and I was like, what? This is one of those things where somebody wondered if they could do something and then they went and did it, and it isn't necessarily useful, but it's pretty amazing. This is from Danielle, whose last name I can never say. Danielle Polinchitz? From Daniel. And he bridged the Kubernetes API with the Google Sheets API so that you can actually use a Google spreadsheet to manage your Kubernetes cluster. It creates a tab per namespace, and it shows you deployments. It recognizes the desired state and the actual state, and when you make a change, it automatically does that. But then you can continue to actually use regular spreadsheet functions against the numbers that are in here. So watch, he just changed there from one pod or one replica to 2 replicas. Here he just changed from 1 to 6. He's showing you the namespaces. It's a totally useless tool, except that it's pretty amazing. And it does demonstrate that having an API as open and powerful as what Kubernetes has means that we can do anything that we want with it. If you want to make, I don't know, an intelligent dog food dispenser where the number of replicas corresponds to the number of pieces of kibble that fall out when your dog presses a button, you can do that. I just probably created a unicorn company, so if you make that and you sell 1 billion of them, then just remember me. I want to briefly check the chat and see if oh my gosh, so much chatting happening. Yeah, so all of you are like, oh my gosh, Adrian's gonna end the show on time, because having control over Trufflebot announcing things and not announcing things allows me to it's funny, I'm looking at the chat, but you all can see the chat now too. So it allows me to actually end the show more or less on time and to wrap things up. Captain Justin says, I wonder if they show memory requests and limits. If they don't, it's just JavaScript and a proxy. You could absolutely extract that and get it in there. And then Duck says built-in graphing support. Yeah, totally. Like anything that you could do for spreadsheet stuff. Captain Justin says billing or reporting use case. Possibly attaching this to a service account that has read-only to the namespaces so that somebody in your billing department could do stuff, or plug this into billing data pulled from Amazon so that you can figure out the actual cost of the things that you're running, and then of course like graphing and stuff like that. So it's not a totally useless tool. It's a demonstration of functionality that already those of you who are seeing it are like, whoa, what can I do with this? Which is often how I get to the tools that show up on the show anyway, as I look at stuff and I'm like, what does that do? Okay, 1 minute left. That gives me enough time to do my outro and still end 2 minutes late because that's an important part of the show, right? It's the part that you all like. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Links to everything that I talk about. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Links didn't go up yesterday because the new Trufflebot output format broke my link generating script and I didn't have time to fix it yesterday. So in general, and possibly by the time you watch this in the future, there will be links to stuff in places. In a perfect world, links to everything I talk about on the show go up in the free community site at community.cncn.io after the show ends. Come join us. Community members get early access to the links, video replay, and other exclusive content. It's free to join, and more people are joining every day. If you have something you would like for me to consider for the show, hit me up and let me know. Right now, you can mention me in a post on the community site or ping me on Discord or Twitter or whatever. Have a great day, everyone. Keep learning. I will see you in the next show. Stay caffeinated.